Calling all nerds. This is More Than Dice, the podcast where we dive deep into the realms of everything nerdy. Whether you're a nerd culture connoisseur, a tabletop titan, a miniature gaming marveler, or just someone who proudly embraces their inner geek, this is the podcast for you. And now here's your hosts, Gonzo, Nerd, and Mizzy.
Welcome to another episode of More Than Dice. I'm Gonzo.
And I'm Nerd.
And I'm GM Eric.
Mizzy is off for the night. We're on episode 329. Almost. If you had it on next week, it could have been 330 and it would have been a party. And Nerd would have supplied us with beer and alcohol and strippers. But, you know, it's only 329.
I'll have to settle for Corquito and maybe some mead later.
Okay, Nerd, please supply
Meat
that.
sounds good.
So, guys, Mizzy is off for the day. We have GM Eric here, where today's episode we're going to be talking about what it takes to be a professional GM and how to make millions doing it. And he will give you the secret to that at the very end of the show. I think it'll probably be in about 2 hours he will give you that information. So just hold on.
Sure.
Oh,
You're going to have to
we're
wait till
off
the
the air.
very end
Perfect.
to get the
Yeah.
secret. Yeah.
As soon as we're off the air. Yep.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and get to the business. We want to thank Creature Catcher for sponsoring the channel, providing us with some awesome miniatures, and the makers of Judgment and Turtle Champions. Make sure you go check them out. They'll be at Adepticon. You can pick up some cool miniatures. We want to thank Cuttlefish Colors, makers of the Sketch and Glaze paints. Although they have other paints to go along with it, they have some really good paints also. And Turbo Dork, makers of turbo shifting paints and awesome metallic paints. If you didn't see the black metallic model that I painted up, I'll show it on stream. They used strictly their metallics to get this look. It turned out really, really awesome. And they will have some new products to show off. But they also, if you haven't tried their new thinning medium for your miniature painting, I'm going to shake it up, look really close. Oh, there it is. This is really good and really cheap, and it's a very large bottle, so you won't be running out anytime soon. And yes, it is one of the, it's like a large, what are those people that do vaping or whatever? It's like an oversized vape bottle, juicer bottle or whatever.
Oh yeah, because they've switched to those tops for everything.
Yeah, which is actually I think one of the best systems that I've seen in paints right now.
Keeps it from dripping everywhere, or overflow.
Yeah. But all of them will be at Adepticon, and if you're going to be at Adepticon, you can meet all three of us, myself, Mizzy, and Nerd. We'll be at the Content Creators Meet and Greet, and also walking around, do everything, handing out new stickers that we have with some really cool ones. I'm going to show, there's Nerd's, there's mine, and then there's Captain Mizzy's.
And if you collect all three, you can get a prize.
We're actually maybe going to change that up a little bit. If I can get our prize in early and I can get them 3D printed quick enough, we may change it to make it a lot easier to get a cool prize from us. But we're waiting from here back from my digital sculptor. He's working on it, hopefully, so I can print up enough stuff. But, and then what else?
I don't think we have any shout outs for the week.
I don't think we have any shout outs either. I know that we've got a lot of things coming up. If you weren't in the pre-ramble, the team are going to be content creators for Corvus Belli for their Infinity stuff coming out. We'll be doing some painting for them. They're going to be giving us their new paint sets to go with their miniatures. I believe they're going to have these sets at Adepticon, and they've partnered up with the Army Painter on the sets and stuff. So you'll see that, and we'll get that. We're looking for a bunch of other content creation stuff we got going on. We got some more games that we're going to be playing. Got some more Trench Crusade coming. And we don't do battle reports; we do battle discussions. So Mizzy and I will be playing some games and discussing it and talking about it. Because we actually have one, two, three, four new games that we're possibly, or not new, but four games and two new ones. We will be picking up the new, damn it, nerd, the new uh, uh, Relic Knights 2-player starter set, so we can test that out because I know a lot of people are very interested to see how that is. And we'll probably pick up the super solos that come along with it too, and paint those up because I know a lot of people were very interested in how that's going to go and what it looks like and et cetera, et cetera. And you know us, I'll buy a game at least as a starter and we'll play it. And if it's good, we'll let you know. And if it's not, we'll let you know too. We do not have any shout outs. So the most important question that everybody's been asking, and I've had people bug me like crazy, is nerd, what are you drinking?
I am drinking strawberry starburst ice.
Right. Eric?
I am drinking ginger ale today. Seagram's
Uh,
ginger ale.
I'm taking the good old H2O in my system today, so we'll be drinking that and such. One last thing before we get out to our cheers. If you are going to Adepticon and you would like a chance for a free ticket, make sure you go to our Facebook page, find the post that's pinned to the top. Just put in there, your name that you want to be entered, and I think it's Wednesday of this week. We'll be cutting that off, and we'll be drawing for one of the badges. It is a core
Neat.
badge plus $20 to spend in their store for all the cool stuff. So,
Mizzy, can you repost that so I can repin it? Because I didn't get that pinned earlier.
oh,
She posted it, but didn't get it pinned. That's D&D
that.
that's pinned.
And then we'll be having a couple of guests come on right before Adepticon, either the 9th or the 15th. We're going to figure out which one. For y'all know, Dave Taylor and Jake Oz will be on from the Build Paint Play group. They will be here to discuss, their crew and what's going on with them, because I'm sure Dave has got some new project that he wants to talk about, and Jake probably wants to show off all his 40K stuff. So, other than that, guys, as usual, as always, if you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. If you could do something, do something. If you can't, find somebody that will, because we definitely need to look after each other and take care of each other all the time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wait a minute, one more, hold on.
Gotta extra hydrate.
Again, Eric, again, Eric. Now that you have to go pee now.
I have
Damn it,
40
Gonzo.
ounces, dude. Let's bring it. I also have 4 water bottles off to the side here as fill. I use this to hold the ice, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that tracks. Most people I know are drink goblins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So guys,
Let's stay hydrated.
I will be painting, but we're not going to go to the painting camera while we talk to GM Eric. But I have to work on models, so I'll just swing the camera around and we'll stay on these so we can get a good conversation. First things first, before we get started, who are you, and why are you on our channel?
Who am I? I am GM Eric, also known as the Game Master Eric here on Twitch. I do stuff over on YouTube. I do GM tip videos, and I'm a full-time professional GM. I've been a full-time GM now for coming on 5 years here in 2 months. Been full-time, and I love it. It is what I enjoy. It's kind of what my whole career has led up to from just like my entire life until now. And I'm here to share my experiences and maybe inspire some other people to give it a try. Because GMing is great. GMing for money is completely different. Well, you say even better. It is completely different. A different perspective on things, and it's a lot more pressure, but it's a lot of fun if you can get into it and embrace it.
So
But
what
you,
is
you
the?
got to kind of enjoy it.
Go ahead.
No,
I was
go
gonna say.
ahead. I'm Cuban. If you don't interrupt me, I will keep talking.
D-Mac the Axe, thanks for joining. We appreciate it.
Could you briefly describe what the difference between like DMing professionally for money, like what's the big difference between that and running a game for friends?
Well, the big difference between running Game for Friends is the fact that in order for me to, well, the definition of being a pro GM is, hey, you're doing it for money. So the moment that you start accepting money in order to be a GM, you are then treating it as a job. And this is my job. I wake up in the morning and I do GMing, and I do it all damn day long. And then I do sessions, and my players know that I'm on call pretty much 24/7 unless I'm asleep. And so it is being a resource to my players. There are different GMs that have different levels of what they do as a professional GM. Part-time GMs, they take it a lot more free than what I do. I am a full-time. This is literally my employment. And so I treat it as such. I have worked in IT for 27 years. I've done everything from run cable all the way up to network center admin for years and years. Before YouTube got bought by Google, I was the network admin for their data center for 3 years. So on Saturdays, if YouTube had a problem and anyone who was using YouTube at the time asked for server assistance, they were talking to me. So I've done the IT stuff, and now I'm doing this, and I absolutely love it. I've worked for Blizzard Entertainment. I've worked for the #1 tabletop store in North America, Nightwatch Games. They were #1, would have been like 3 or 4 years ago. And I love what I do. As far as the difference between what I do as opposed to a non-paid GM, it really comes down to the time investment. Because this is my job, I can invest a whole hell of a lot more time than someone who has a full-time job. If you have a full-time job during the day and you're wanting to invest 8 hours to do prep for your one-night game, you're going to have to do that on your weekend, or you're going to spend all that time cumulative over the week. Right now, I'm streaming 6 games a week on Twitch, in addition to an AMA, GMA, or GM Eric Hangout where I answer questions and help people with their games on Saturday nights. I do YouTube stuff, I do merchandise, etc. So it's turning it into a business. It's treating it like a job.
Yeah.
And so
But
my question is, how did you get started doing that? Because I've been GMing since I was in 3rd grade, and
right.
I don't do it as anything. It's fun. It's a hobby, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
How did you get started from going, hey, this is a hobby, this is something fun, to I'd like to make cash from this?
Well, I started when I was 8 years old. I was GMing when I was 8, and I've been playing every version of D&D and pretty much any TTRPG that's been out since then. I've forgotten more TTRPGs than I can remember. They come and go real fast. But to the current time, I've been GMing for years and years and years. And I love GMing more than I do playing, which is weird. I recognize that. But um, when I was working in the tabletop store, I was their night manager, spelled with a K. I was the night manager. I opened and closed for them. And when I was working for them, was having a great time. And there was a guy who would come in on Sundays, and he would professional GM for a 3-hour session, and he was making $5 for a 3-hour session. Not $5 per person. He made $5 for 3-hour session.
Oof.
Which is peanuts. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
And
That
anyone
covers your
who's
snacks, maybe.
he got a free snack and he got $5, and that was it. And felt sorry for the guy. But I talked to the guy. His name's John Fuller. Great guy. Great GM as well. Very unique beard. That's besides the point. But great guy, super helpful. And he expressed how his mindset was for being a professional GM and accepting money. He was like, if I'm putting in effort and my time to allow someone else to have enjoyment, as opposed to my enjoyment, and I'm investing my time and my emotions, etc., in their enjoyment. I'm an entertainer, and it's okay to be paid to be an entertainer. And I took that to heart, and fine, maybe I'll do that eventually. Then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, game shops shut down. And the place I was working had to shut down for 3 months. After month one, I'm like, I need money. And so maybe I can do this thing. So I decided, all right, let's try this. So I hopped on Roll20, which is a virtual tabletop,
Yep.
and went up there, and they had a group finder. And a couple of friends of mine are like, hey, we heard you're going to try this. We will pay for your subscription to Roll20 for $100 so that you can do the dynamic lighting thing, etc., because we want to try that out. Sweet, I'll do this. We'll run the one game. Fine. And the group finder went up, and it was $10 game. Come in, play for $10, and I'll run a 3 to 4 hour session. I had one person sign up. She's actually in the chat right now here on stream, and and that went off well. The next day, I'm like, okay, I was able to do this. It wasn't a big deal. I'm not injured. Fine, let's try another session. And I did another one shot 2 days later, and I did another one shot 2 days after that. And eventually, it's like, okay, I'm running 5 1-shots a week. Cool. That was great. And then someone's like, hey, why don't you run this as a campaign? We're having a lot of fun. We've got the same people showing up for the one-shots. Let's do a campaign. So I started my Misfits of Mayhem campaign. And then about a month after that, I started another campaign called the Alley Rats. And it went from there. And it eventually snowballed up to where I was running 7 campaigns a week, streamed live on Twitch, with one-shots and birthday parties and bachelor parties and office things and theater troops asking for me to teach them how to play D&D, which is a ton of fun to be able to do.
Bet.
Right? There's a theater play called She Kills Monsters. If you've not read the screenplay for that, you know that? Okay. If you've not seen that one, it's a great play. But the cast of She Kills Monsters from a military theater company in Germany had never played D&D. They didn't know what any of these monsters were. And my administrative assistant is overseas and is like, hey, maybe you should try out D&D with GM Eric. And so we did a tutorial series for the cast and crew about what D&D was and how to cast spells and what kind of animations. And they came in and they're like, how do you do this? And we taught them creativity and role play and, improv, etc. And they ended up getting the military award for the best theatrical play. And my name's actually in there as a consultant, which is neat.
Nice.
So I got to do all sorts of things like that. And now I do it full time and have been full time for nearly 5 years. So I love what I do. But it came about as a partial inspiration beforehand, and then they say that necessity is the mother of invention. So, yeah, I had to get a job, and no one was hiring during COVID, so I made my own job.
Do you have a particular style of DMing? Like, are you more focused on like the storytelling, combat, role play, or like a blend?
Honestly, remember, I'm an entertainer, and I'm a servant for my clients. My goal is to provide them with the best possible gaming experience that they want. I don't set the game for myself.
Okay.
My gaming style is vastly different than any one of the groups that I currently run. When we do a start to a campaign, currently all my campaigns are homebrew, and we hold the session 0, where we discuss what do you want from a D&D game. And I've got a long list of questions. It's like 50 questions that we ask about what kind of campaign does this group want to do. And every single group is different. What do you want? What kind of players are you? Are you someone who just wants to sit there and listen to the cinematic moment that we describe about your character? Or do you want to be super nitty gritty? Let's talk about your survival rations and how many grains of salt did you put on it, etc. And it can range even within the same group. And so my GMing style comes down to, what do the players want? This weekend, yesterday, we had a session where no one touched dice at all. Like, we didn't do any combat, and it was RP and lore and discussions the entire 3.5 hours. And then today's
Those are my
session,
favorite personally.
right. And that's what that group enjoys. They enjoy their mystery, their intrigue, their political connections, etc. They want to know, why does this person do this? What's their favorite food? How do we influence this other person, etc. And that's my Us Against the Gods group. The Sunday group, likes having some role play to have a story behind their nitty gritty combat and some puzzles. And so I
Okay.
have some code breakers, and I've got some power gamers who are trying to figure out the most efficient way to do things. And then they find these super power gamey characters, and they're like, we have all this power, and then we're going to goof off with it and not use it, which is hilarious. I love these guys. And so they come in, and today's session was 95% battle map combat. And 2 of the characters died, and they're perfectly fine with it because that's what they enjoy. Tomorrow's group has been setting up this one combat for 2.5 years. And so they spent the past 7 sessions role playing, and now are in the middle of a battle map series, and that's what they enjoy. Is they like the big mix of things. It really depends on the group, and I provide to them what they're wanting, as opposed to, this is the story that I want to do. This is the story that they want.
Okay.
So it's not my style. It's the depends on what they want.
So you
Customize it.
said everything's based or set in a homebrew setting of yours. Like,
Yes.
tell us about that. Like, what were like the big influences in
Sure.
creating your homebrew?
Yeah. Originally, I was running in the Forgotten Realms, mostly in
Yep.
the Cormyrian section, which is in the center of the map above the Lake of Dragons. Many people know it. It's where the Purple Dragon Knights come from. It's a ton of lore there. It's great lore. However, we had the Wizards of the Coast OGL crisis, would have been 2 years ago now. And when the OGL license crisis came up, I'm like, oh crap, I'm a professional GM. I don't feel like getting sued by Wizards of the Coast because I'm using their content. And that was the concern of so many content creators.
Yep.
And so I'm like, what I have to do is I have to legally, and I've got attorneys that play my games, I have to legally separate myself from them. I can still use the system, but I'm afraid of using their lore. So I'm like, okay, we're starting some new campaigns. Let's start off with this new campaign setting. And so we created the campaign setting called Toivoa. It is based off of the Finnish word for hope.
Okay.
And Toivoa, you can actually go check it out over at toivoarpg.com. We have a World Anvil site set up with hundreds of articles now, where you can go and check out reference information about it. There's an interactive map and everything where you can click on the individual cities and check them out and check out political structures, etc. And we're always adding to it. But Toivoa ended up being very popular. It's based off of almost a post-apocalyptic fantasy where it's not apocalyptic modern, but rather we had a high society with floating sky islands and high magitech technology at the time, with warforged and flying ships and crystalline power sources, etc. But a great war happened 2,000 years ago. The Sky Islands have all fallen, and we are dealing with the aftermath of the ground dwellers versus the sky people and how that interacts and what's been going on in the world after that. We currently have
Oh,
a group
cool.
that's exploring the possibility of raising a sky island back into the air. We have others who have explored sky islands that have been buried beneath the rubble of nature. So it's kind of fun to go explore this different thing. We have another that's part of an Assassin's Guild. The entire group is an Assassin's Guild leadership that handles all the politics of an Assassin's Guild that is influencing all the other countries. So it really depends on the various things. And the fun part about doing a campaign setting like this is all of the campaigns are interlinked. So if an NPC dies in one campaign, they die in all the campaigns. So all the campaigns are interconnected. We have cameos where one player might come in and do a cameo to talk to another group if they're in the same city, etc. It's tons of
Oh,
fun.
that's fun.
Oh yeah,
Very
it's a
cool.
blast.
What game systems are you using?
We are currently using D&D 5th edition 2014.
Hmm.
We do occasionally do different things, but for the most part, the groups have asked to do the 2014 rules. I have done Starfinder. Like I said, I've done all the TTRPGs as far as I know. I love trying them. I've done Pathfinder 1 and 2, done Star Wars and Star Trek and Legend of the Five Rings, Doctor Who, etc. I love
Fun.
them all.
Nice. Do you
So,
have a favorite?
um, I have a favorite because it's allowed me to do this professionally, and it's 5th edition. Um, that said, there's a caveat to it. I love 5th edition not because of the system itself, but because the system has become mainstream and people have been able to gain access to the system. You understand? So it's the ability for D&D to become more mainstream and more accessible has been great.
Yep.
Having
Yes.
a system that Critical Role, Dimension 20, all of these big names that are out there in super public, those people have been able to bring in more people into gaming. And we have a lot of, I have a lot, I should say. I have a lot of people who come in who are in their late 30s, early 40s, who are like, fantasy stuff is nerdy, and I've never been able to be nerdy because my family, threw shade at us because we were being geeky and nerdy, etc. But
Hmm.
now we're seeing D&D's popular. The D&D movie came out, Honor Among Thieves, and that made it popular because that was actually a really solid movie.
Yes, it
Oh,
And
it
was.
was.
because of Lord of the Rings, the all these other things that are coming out, people are realizing, why am I afraid of being nerdy and geeky and enjoying fantasy? So they're trying D&D, and 5th edition is allowing that accessibility while still being a little granular more than 4th edition, but not being as granular as 3.5.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun to just embrace it and have a lot of fun. As far as my personal thing, if I was a player, I would go back and play Legend of the Five Rings just because I loved the lore from the trading card game and all the books of that.
That's a solid
Uh,
game.
Yeah, L5R. I have a couple flats of cards still from old L5R.
so let's get into the business. Let's talk a little bit more about like the business side of DMing.
Sure,
How do you typically find your clients, and what
sure.
platforms or methods have you found most effective?
Well, couple things that I started originally. I started with just the Roll20 group finder, and that worked for the first couple of years. But it's kind of waned as far as being popular anymore. Not a lot of people are using that, and so you got to go ahead and adjust. And as a business, you have to find different ways to bring people in. So I get a lot of people through word of mouth. That is my number one recruitment tool is word of mouth. People who play in my games or see me or have heard about me, recommend me to someone else, and I get clients that way. Another way is my Twitch stream. Here on Twitch, I stream, like I said, 6 or 7 times a week, and I get a lot of viewers through that, and it is a ton of fun. Another is I have some pretty badass business cards that are gold, white, and black, and there you go.
Ooh,
That's what they
shiny.
look like, and they got a pretty badass QR code. There you go. There you go, Gonzo.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
I got a QR code on the back that goes directly to my website, and I go to local game shops and I ask the ownership if, hey, can I put out a stack of business cards? And usually they're like, yeah, sure. We always have people looking, or they have the bulletin board at the back where people are looking for groups. And so I go and I put a few business cards up there, and I've gotten more people through the business cards than I have through the recruitment tool on Roll20, which is saying
Okay.
something. So you just go and you do the rounds, you go hit up. I live in San Antonio, Texas, not to dox myself or anything, but I'm very public about that. And we have a ton of game shops here. I think there's like 20 of them.
Oh, wow.
So I'll go out on a Thursday and I'll do the lap and hit up a whole bunch of game shops and drop off cards. So we do that whenever I have openings. My openings tend to fill up pretty quickly, but if I have a campaign that's missing 2 or 3 players for more than 2 weeks, I'm doing the laps and I'm putting out 1,000 business cards. And so you drop business cards at the restaurants when you pay your tip. When you go to get a haircut, you give someone a business card. You talk about it. And I wear my polo shirts or my T-shirts everywhere that have my logos, and everyone's like, "Who the hell is GM Eric?" And it's neat to see and discuss. So that's how I do it. I try and start playing. Unfortunately, for me, start playing takes too much of a cut from what I do because I do this full time. But if you're doing it part-time, startplaying.games is a really cool site that will get you people involved in your games. It's
Nice.
just not good for me because I do it full-time as my main employment and I can't afford their cut.
Fair. What are some of the challenges that come with running games for paying clients?
Ooh, challenges that would be running. Um, Number one is actually doing all the billing and the back end stuff. Like, you got to make sure that you're getting paid.
Yep.
And you're dealing with a whole bunch of people. So I just recently brought in my first 2 part-time employees. I brought in a moderator who comes in and she handles my Twitch stream and handles the discussions on there. She also checks Discord and monitors Discord for me and notifies me, hey, there's someone who might be a suspicious person that needs to be banned. But that's all she does. She does that for a couple hours a week. I also have a logistics director who handles my to-do list. I have extreme ADHD. I'm surprised I've been able to stay on topic this long. Um, but
You're in
she
good company for that. You're fine.
right, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Um, but she keeps me a to-do list and she's got it all set up with yellow highlighted black text that flashes, hey, you need to do this thing on this day. And she's got a calendar set up for me, and I get alarms on my phone that are like, hey, you need to hop into the podcast tonight to hang out with Nerd Holla and Gonzo. And so that organization is the back end of it that people don't really see, but it's necessary in order to keep me on task.
Yeah.
But when you're doing this yourself, I have to handle all my ticketing. So anyone who buys a ticket, I have to check and make sure, did they pay for the session? Or do they have a subscription? Did the subscription fire? Did the credit cards get declined? All that stuff. We send receipts. We handle all of that billing information. Um, because I do this for a living and I want to keep my costs cheap for my players, I also do a ton of merchandising. So I do. Currently, I've got a T-shirt, a hoodie, and a tank top available right at the front page of my site. I have to do all the graphics design for those. I have to do graphics design for all my merch, blankets, and mugs, etc. I mean, heck, this mug is from my campaign setting, uh, which I love. I love doing
Carbohydrate.
that sort of thing. But I also do all my another hydrate. Hail hydrate.
Hail hydrate.
But I also have to do all my own IT. So because I did IT for 27 years, I do all my own networking and I do all my own hardware support and software support and setup and monitoring and everything because someone's got to do it and no one's going to do it for me. I'm not big enough yet as a GM to be able to hire an IT team.
What?
Um,
You're not making billions?
No, no. Last year pulled in right at 53,000, which is not bad.
That's very good.
So if you want to talk just straight numbers, there you go.
Question on this.
Yeah,
Now, Nerd and I, we've been GMing for forever. I mean, I've been
sure.
doing it. I've had campaigns that have lasted 5 years to 2 game
Awesome.
sessions. I had one campaign that was based on the ruins of Undermountain, and that's all they did.
Cool.
They just went in, and it was a 5 year campaign. We did like character trees, so we had like everybody had 5 characters, and we all did this all stuff and everything. But
That's amazing.
oh, it was a blast. We actually had our own personal graveyard in Waterdeep because so many people
Awesome.
died. um, so it was really good. But the one thing that we always have to deal with, and whether we like it or not,
Yeah.
is players that are trouble players.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that? Because I mean, being a professional, you have to watch out not only for your clients, but your show and your business to make
Right.
sure that they're following along and they're, not interfering with other people's pleasure. Best way to
Hmm.
put it. So,
Absolutely.
can you give us some examples or, how you've handled it?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, whenever I start a game, my players always hit a start screen. And I have two rules for my campaigns. Number one is have fun. And rule number two is don't prevent others from having fun. If you can't follow those two rules, I don't want you in my games. And we kick you out. Fortunately, that doesn't happen very often. People see that and are like, okay, let's behave. Before I even get to that point, though, in order to play in my games, you have to go through an interview process with me where we discuss who you are, what are you looking for in a D&D game? Is this something that I can provide for you? Are you looking for straight PvP and, basically trolling? No, go away. You can go find a GM who's going to embrace that and you can go play Warhammer. Um, no shame to Warhammer players, but go play PvP. You guys are great at it. But if you're not going to fit in the group you're applying for, I'm just going to let you know, honestly, this isn't the group for you. Let's not do this. Now, that said, the interview process gets rid of about 97%. And I checked this beforehand. It's about 97% get filtered through the interview process. And I'm not afraid of saying, hey, no, you're not a good fit, because there's so many D&D players, so many TTRPG players out there that I will find people who want to play and play with a team and have fun together. And that'll fit. And so we make sure that the group fits first. Now, occasionally, as we all know, a player will slip through the cracks. And when they do slip through the cracks, you got to deal with it. You got to try that conflict resolution stuff. And from IT and customer service, you learn how to do this. And it is just a process of let's communicate, let's try to work through it. But sometimes it's like, you don't fit. This is not going to work out. I'm going to fire the client. And sometimes it's okay to fire a client.
Yep.
If they're not a good client, I'm fine with giving you a refund for the last session. I'm fine for saying this last one was the last straw. Goodbye. See you later. I will find someone who's going to participate and not be a bleep 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 bleep, etc. Because I don't want to spoil Gonzo's stream.
Oh
But
no, we can cuss like a motherfucker, so don't worry about
Oh
it.
yeah.
um, the
Yeah, you can fucking say fuck bye.
um, the idea is you have to be free to fire clients and
Yeah.
not afraid to, because by setting the standard of behavior of, hey, look, you cannot be a misogynistic jerk. You cannot hate on people for their life choices. You set that standard and you suddenly have created a safe space where people are coming to play D&D, not to discuss politics or whatever other real life topic you want to. You're here to play with GM Eric in order to have a game playing D&D with GM Eric. I capsulize this into, I'm an entertainer. You're here to be entertained. Let's be entertained. When you guys leave and you go off into another channel or go talk amongst yourselves, I don't care what you talk about. That's not my business, etc. I am here to distract you from real life and let you guys have fun in a safe air environment where everyone's protected. Doesn't matter who you are, creed, college, religion, doesn't matter. You come in, we have fun, you enjoy the story, and as long as the content remains within the boundaries that you guys set during your session 0, that's what you asked for. And so um we I've had to kick out, I think, 7 people so far in
Oh
5
wow.
years. But right now I'm actually overbooked. I usually run 6 players in my campaigns, and I have 2 campaigns that currently run with 7. So um, it's a fun problem to have,
Been
and
there.
it takes a
Been
special
there.
group. Oh, it takes a special group to be able to do that, and special players. So fortunately, and I'm always thankful for my players, I have some of the best D&D players in the world and most loyal D&D players in the world who come in and every week come in and play D&D together and form relationships where we talk about life, etc. before the session. But once we start the actual session, it is we're here to play D&D.
Yep.
And for that 3 to 4 hour period, because I give myself a 1 hour cushion at the end to find a nice ending spot. At the end of that, that's the end of the game, and everyone can just hang up. And that's the entertainment aspect. We focus on it being like a comedy show or Whose Line Is It Anyway? Whatever it is, we are compartmentalizing it into this is an entertainment period that is safe for everybody.
Question
Hope
for
that
you.
makes sense. Yes,
For
sir.
I know these are kind of you have people and you say your session zeros, which I always believe in a session zero. Going,
Yeah.
how
Oh yeah.
dirty, raunchy, PG-13 to,
Yep.
whatever are you going to do? Um, what's your standard? I mean, what do you usually find as a common between people? Like, and we usually say this. It goes from G to PG-13
Right.
to R to holy fuck, we're going to be breaking some social barriers.
For the most part, my current I run 7 groups. I've got a private group that doesn't stream.
Okay.
But out of the 7 groups, all 7 of them said yes to PG-13. We can do some physical flirting, but if we go into any nudity or sexuality, we use the term fade to black.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's this lovely term that allows you to imagine all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, another one
That,
we use called boots on the ground. I was like, I'm
right.
now putting my boots that I had on the ground on me because you know what that means.
Right. We've used in the past, one of my past groups used to use sock on the doorknob.
Yep.
We used to do that one, but Fade to Black is so much more
Yeah.
cinematic to the brain of, okay, we've got wind in the trees and we've got the, smooth jazz and then fade to black. Or all of a sudden the rock music hits and we fade to black. And
Hmm.
depending on who the characters are, you can do that fade in different ways to allow them to have that exotic or whatever moment you want, and you fade to black on the sexuality. Now, when we talk about gore, etc., my groups have different levels. I have one group who does not want any blood or guts at all. They're like, hey, we want to keep it kind of on the Disney level, right? Maybe a blood splatter here, there, that's about it. Then I have other groups who are like, bring on the body horror. And we talk about all sorts of things. How far can we go on this? But we talk about all sorts of body horror, all the way down to like Hellraiser levels. So,
Nice.
yeah, we can go that far if the group desires it.
Yeah, it's
But
all dependent on the group.
Yeah.
exactly, you embrace what the group wants. I keep notes on everything, but it is what the group wants. But the question was, where do they end up on average? They end up on average around a PG-13, where we can show skin, we can show some PDA, some public displays of affection, but and maybe even some heavy petting, right? Usually it's just flirtatious things. We had one would have been last week where a very seductive character who it emphasizes consent in everything.
Hmm.
She was trying to tease one of the characters by laying on a couch and just having her legs waving from behind the couch. You couldn't see anything, but it was just her using her legs to wave at people and her toes, etc., being flirtatious. And then she's like petting his forearm. Okay, but when you put that with the art of the character, etc., it's like, okay, this is a highly sexualized person who isn't doing something sexual. She's just teasing and flirting. So that's kind of where people are comfortable, is at that PG-13 level.
Yeah.
Um,
I found
that's
that
where
to be the
people are.
case with most of mine as well.
Most of mine
Yeah,
are that way too, about PG-13. And depending, like I said, on the party and what everybody wants, it can
yeah,
go a little bit harder and a little bit, thing, but all consent within the group. Um,
exactly.
I want to offer you a chance to, or I want you to look up a game called Die, DIE.
Okay.
If you would like the PDF, let me know. I can get you a copy. Um, because this game right here, I think. you will find it very interesting because the GM actually plays a character in the game,
Oh, cool.
type thing. And
Oh
it
yeah, I know this game you're talking about. Yep, 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 yep,
yeah,
yep, yep,
I've
yep,
ran
yep,
it a
yep. I
couple of
remember you talking
times, and it's very challenging and very different. If you'd like a
Interesting.
PDF, let me know,
I would
and
love
I'll
that.
give it to you. Because after we get done, send me your email address, and I'll email you a copy of the game.
Sure. I'd love to
Because
check it out.
this game kind of breaks a lot of boundaries.
Sure.
You actually have to have a session at the end to make sure everybody was okay.
That's cool.
But after the show, we'll kind of talk about it a little bit, and I'll give you a little idea. But
Of
I
course.
think session zeros and consenting of who and what and how you want it is
Yeah,
always
like
important.
Absolutely.
I
I
have my players fill out actual consent forms where there's like check boxes and everything.
Yeah, I like to whenever we start a group, and very often I like to remind people I'm not psychic, so if you have a problem, you need to let me know.
Yes.
And in my disclaimer at the start of every session, it says if there's something you have a problem with, send me a message. If you send me a message and I didn't respond, let me know verbally so that I can pay attention because I'm not psychic. I don't know you're having a problem. We need to communicate in order to give
Yes.
you a good experience. Communication is key across all TTRPGs. I don't care who you are, professional or casual, you need to communicate with your players, and your players need to communicate with you. If you're not communicating, the game's going to suffer.
Correct.
Speaking of communication, what is your philosophy on player agency? Like, how much freedom do you give your players to shape the story?
All the freedom.
Okay.
My players, my players generally realize very quickly in my games that if they want to do something, I will absolutely allow them to try it. We set die rolls, we discuss the rulings, etc. My job is very much based off of the Gary Gygax mentality of the GM or DM in his phrasing, because he did D&D only. Um, the DM should be hiding behind a black curtain and only speak when spoken to. That was kind of his idea of the perfect GM. Was the GM is not actually there. He's not engaged in the game. He only provides the challenges, and the players engage with those challenges.
What? You're not
Oh,
there to kill the GM? You're there to
no,
kill everybody? It's not like
no,
your job to kill
It's
all the
not
players?
GM versus players?
it's not GM
Yeah.
What?
versus players. No, it is absolutely not. It is. I provide a challenge. I provide a framework for the story. I provide all the NPCs for you guys. But as far as the actual game goes, it is driven by the players. If my players like, hey, my one of my favorite examples is one of my players is like, hey, I want to create this organization that my player character is part of. It's part of this Assassin's Guild that's called the House of Flowers. They have a far off location we'll never visit called the Pearl Sanctuary. We're going to have this little framework, and all the assassins are going to be named after different plants. I'm like, sweet, we'll do this. Give me more. And so, after 2 weeks, guy sends me 48 pages of content about this Assassin's Guild and the history of it and all of these things, right?
48 pages. I thought the 40-page backstory I got from a player was enough.
No, he sends me 48 pages about a organization that his character is part of, not his character, about the organization he just wants to put in the world. I'm like, bet, let's do it. And now I have an entire campaign in a different group, which he is not a part of, that is exploring that organization.
That's awesome.
So, and one of them is actually the leader of the organization now, which is great. But
Is that now
we
officially part of your world?
Oh yeah. The moment he does that, we stick it into the content. I edit it to make sure it fits because very often players don't know what's going on in the other campaign stories or the behind the scenes stuff that's happening secretly away from them. So you have to go in and be like, this name doesn't make sense, this location doesn't make sense, this time frame doesn't make sense, but let's change it and make it fit. You move the little Lego blocks around and it's still recognizable as the same thing, but you now have a better fitting product that the players feel is their own because it is. They just needed a little bit of editing and guidance into the right parking spot for that car. Does that analogy make sense?
Yep.
I hope so.
Yes.
Okay. So you give them that kind of agency. When it comes into the actual sessions, if they want to try something off the wall, sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, Eric, I know this is against the rules, but for the rule of cool, can we try something?" And I'll be like, "For the rule of cool, we can make an exception. What are you trying? And we'll see
Love
where we're
rule of
at."
cool.
We
And
play
so,
the rule of cool too.
oh yeah,
Yep.
No
it
reason
is
not
so
to.
much fun. Right, no reason not to. Having the key is realizing this is an exception, not the rule. We're doing this specific time in order to allow for this moment, and then we return back to the rules. Or if this specific rule of cool happens so damn often, how can we make a new rule for this? One of the really good examples of this, I have a player who happens to be in the chat right now who had a tendency to always move their character just one more step than they were supposed to, because we use dynamic lighting on our virtual tabletop so that they could get line of sight around to see what was in the room next, right? And they would do this beyond their normal movement. And so they're like, "I just want to lean out and look." And they would do this constantly. I'm like, "Okay, fine. You know what? I'm going to create a feat that allows you to use a bonus action to lean out without taking a step of movement, and you do not trigger the line of sight of someone else." So they got to lean out. And now there's a feat in my campaign setting called Reconnaissance Expert, where they can just peek around a corner just to break line of sight and check what's over there without having to actually take that extra 5 steps, the 5 feet of movement.
Nice.
So by doing that, you embrace the rule of cool, you make them feel special, they impacted the world, and other players then benefit. I have another one that's called the Judoka feat, and it allows people to use acrobatics instead of athletics. Okay. And it's just more fun.
One of the things
So,
that
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the things that we do and that I implement in mine is not only the rule of cool, but also besides being the rule of cool, if you describe what you're doing, and it
Yeah.
the group thinks that's like, oh, that's cool as shit, you get like a bonus, or you
Oh,
get
yeah.
Point of inspiration or
advantage, yeah,
advantage.
inspiration or
Yeah.
something like that. Because I'm currently running a what's called household. Household is you're playing little pixies and fairies in a modern world
Okay.
where in this giant mansion, and they can say, I'm going to run up and smash somebody in the face with whatever. Cool, fine, don't care. And then they go,
Right.
no, I want to leap off this table, do a backflip, come down, hit him in the face, and go, take that, bitch. And then I'm like, okay, you get a bonus. I will give you, because everybody's like, that's really cool.
Right.
And that's something
Yeah.
we do a lot of. By the way, that's also a game I think you should look into too,
I
because
encourage that type of play. The creative description of
Yeah.
game mechanics is
yeah, and you're
chef's kiss. I love that.
and
Yeah.
they're not trying to gain an
It's a
advantage
GM's
off of
dream.
Right.
leaping over the table, or they're not trying to get anything greater than what they do. They just
Right.
want to add some cinematic flair to everything.
Exactly. It's called seasoning.
Yeah.
I
Or
love
like
it.
when players describe their spells and like how they cast it or things like that. Uh though I have a question to ask because you're talking about like things that
Sure.
players have helped create in your world.
Yeah.
What is an item or a spell that you homebrew item or spell that you have given a player that ended up getting used in ways you didn't expect?
Ooh. The best example of this is I have a spell that was created by a character by the name of Silas. And the guy who originally created the spell, and he's super proud of it, and I don't mind sharing his name. He actually is a writer for D&D Beyond by the name of Damon Cook.
Okay.
And Damon created a spell called Silas's Hinder Fate. And what it is it's a chronomancy spell that is a cantrip.
Chronomancy.
And when you cast the spell, you concentrate on it for up to a minute. Fine. It uses an action to cast, and you concentrate on it for up to a minute. During that minute, you can use your reaction before a die is rolled to pause it, just to hold it in time and not allow that roll to happen until you break concentration. Now, you can break concentration whenever you want. So if I were to swing my sword at you and you release this spell and it holds this attack in midair, and then you move away from that space and you release concentration, the swing happens, but you're no longer there. So you got this whole chronomancy aspect to it. we've had it be used for things like death saving throws, where, okay, I know that person over there is about to make a death saving throw. We're going to pause time on that person so they don't make the death saving throw. Or we're going to hold on to the fact that I drank a potion and we're not going to roll the hit points for this potion yet. So then I run in, I take a fireball, my concentration breaks, I fall unconscious, I heal up. Um,
Interesting.
so that's a homebrew spell that got used in different ways. Um, I have a magic item called the Lady in Red, which when you throw it, you can teleport to wherever that dagger is. I've had that dagger smuggled into different places, and then person teleports to where that dagger has been smuggled to. So it's kind of one of these weird mechanical things that people are like, we're going to try this weird thing. It's fun. Just embrace it and let the players be creative and have a good time.
Nice. Do you use like music or sound effects or anything like that in your games? And
I
how do you
do.
run those?
Oh, yeah. Um, we all know that music and sound effects are important for immersion. If you go to a movie and that has no sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you went back and you watched some of the old silent movies, they have music playing behind the silent movies because we
Oh yeah.
need that for immersion. Playing a TTRPG without any music can be done, and you can have an amazing game. But just by having a little background music and like 5% audio in the background, just barely audible, you can change the entire mood of a room. Um, I did sound design for a dinner theater for 5 years when I was a teenager, and I absolutely loved it, and I got immersed into the whole sound design thing. So, for my games, I use a program called Sirenscape. I'm sure you guys have heard of it.
I am very familiar, yes.
Sirenscape allows you to upload your own audio files into their web-based interface.
Nice.
And when I go on the internet, I find some DMCA free, royalty free sounds or audio, or I make my own because I have a nice studio here that I can do that in. I go ahead and upload them to Sirenscape, and I do my own Foley artist stuff, etc. And I import that into Sirenscape, or I pay for a voice actress to do something, etc. When it comes time, I use Sirenscape to dump that audio into Discord because most of my games happen virtually online. I have a program called Kenku FM that links
I've
into
heard
my
of it. Yeah,
Discord.
yeah. We started using that, I think, for my Pathfinder campaign.
So we use Kenku FM to dump the audio into Discord. And so my players are listening to a Discord account feeding them the Sirenscape audio.
Nice.
And that also links into my OBS for the Twitch stream so that they can hear it. So what the Twitch stream and what my Discord people hear are technically different, but it's the same sounds.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Sirenscape is an invaluable tool. There's a couple other tools like it. I have dabbled with another one called Pocket Bard. I'm not sure if you guys have
Okay.
heard of that one.
I've heard of that
No.
one.
You have heard of that one?
Yep.
Yep. Pocket Bard's got this really, really cool feature where you set an environment and you may set like a cityscape, etc. And they've got a slider of how intense are the sounds right now. And if it's a really intense scene, you just slide the slider over and it smoothly adds additional tracks into that feed so that you are now in a more populated city or the tavern's more intense. Or instead of being spooky, now we're in combat. You just do this slider, it shifts the music into it. It's a really,
Nice.
really cool system.
So I think that's about all the questions that we've got. Where can people find you or book you
Sure.
for a game?
You can find me over at www.gmeric.com. I'm also here on Twitch at twitch.tv/the Game Master Eric. I'm on there 6 or 7 times a week, usually 7. So check me out there. I'm also on YouTube where I do GM tips, and all of my GM Eric archives are over on there. So you can find, I think it's like 400 or 600 episodes of my campaigns on there on playlists. So if you want to binge something, you can go ahead and hit that up.
Yeah, it looks like our shout outs
Cool.
messed up.
Yeah, I don't know why the shadow didn't go. It worked earlier.
Yeah, it worked earlier. I
Yeah.
appreciate the shout outs anyway. But yeah, check me out. gmeric.com is a great way to find me, or on Discord. If you want to reach out on Discord, my Discord ID is gm.eric, and I'm fairly responsive because I have to be.
Yeah. All right.
Sweet.
Media.
So, just so when we get done with this and everything, we have our after session. We talk. Someone has requested to be in the room with us when we do our after session.
Sure.
So you met Mizzy, and
Absolutely.
she's like, "Hey, I want to talk to him about something," and I'm like, "No
Of
problem."
course.
Um, so Eric, this has been amazing. It's
I'm
always
glad.
good to talk to about other GMs about stuff.
Of
Um,
course.
we can. Are you at any conventions? Are you going to any conventions? Running anything?
I would love to. I have a goal of getting into a convention in 2026. I do not understand much of the convention system. I did get approached by a organization, and they will remain anonymous because we could not come to an agreement financially on what they wanted to do. But I would like to eventually get a booth at a convention where I could host some games and maybe just get my name out there.
I'll
But
hook you
at
up
the
after this.
moment, I'm not. Um, but that organization is a fantastic organization. They help a ton of GMs get into the scene. Um, just they and I did not meet up. That's all.
I'll hook you up after we're out of here. I'll get you some stuff for that.
Sure.
As everybody
I'd
knows,
love to get all the information. I'm always open to learning because no one's perfect.
no.
No one's perfect, and I always have room to grow.
Um,
Gonzo's the man with the hookups.
Awesome. I'd love to get hooked up. Like seriously, I live down in San Antonio, Texas, and since they canceled PAX South,
mhm.
we don't really have a great convention for me to do down here. So I'd love to be able to travel. I love traveling. So, yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah. So yeah, Mizia says meet the fake creature Gonzo. Very much so. I'll give you.
I'm a goblin. Mizzy's a pirate. Gonzo's a fey creature.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and switch to the media section. And for those
Sure.
people that don't know, the last 30 minutes we usually talk about our media sections, or until we're done talking about media stuff. And the media section is kind of interesting and weird. We talk about any books we read, TV shows, games, whatever. It doesn't matter. But we also have a rating system. We rate our media two different ways, whether it's closer to Casablanca or closer to Cats the movie. Casablanca being a near perfect old movie, and Cats being the worst movie ever made, especially if they released a butthole edition version of Cats.
Oh,
Um,
hail hydrate.
oh, hell, hydrate. Um, and we have our space harpy rating system. If you have not seen the movie Space Pirates, our Ice Pirates, please go do so. It is a cinematic masterpiece made in the 80s. And it is an extremely awesome TV show movie that will make you enjoy everything you have ever accomplished in life. But in that scene, there is a egg that releases a creature that if it bites you, you get herpes. And so it's called space herpes. So do you want space herpes? No. So 0 space herpes is a perfect movie, and 5 space herpes is the worst type of thing ever.
Okay.
And that's how we do it. And I'm getting the side eye from Mizzy because she's seen Ice Pirates, and I will tell you,
It is
this is
not
an
a cinematic masterpiece. He's lying to you all.
it is an
Do not listen
80s
to the Fae.
movie. It is an 80s movie that you look at this and you're like, did they just say, yep, they said that. Boy, we would get our ass beat if we would have said that today. But it is a product of its time, so live with that as
Do not trust the Fae.
is. Do not trust the Fae. So I'll go and go first. So one of the things that I watched this week was a very um, I was just trying to find something to watch while I ate because I had about 30 minutes to watch, and I was watching TV and or eating, and I was like, I just want to watch something just to keep there, and didn't want anything serious or anything that I had to think about, and so I turned it on Disney Plus. Love Disney Plus, and they have a new Spider-Man series on there called Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and it is a modern take of Spider-Man, and but it is using old school you know, Jack Kirby style art.
Love
Okay.
Um,
that.
Yeah, and it's like it's not shell shaded. It's just, hey, the shirt is one color, and it has like lines to show where it's at. There's no shading, no, hardly any of that stuff. First episode, you expect it to be, the origin
Origin
story,
story.
and it's not. It's like he gets bit by a weird spider. 3 months later, he's Spider Man, and it even says 3 months later, and they show Spider Man. It kind of reminds me of combination of Miles Morales, Tom Holland, and what's his face? That did the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man together. He's a very
Okay.
young kid. He is scientific, everything else, but he's got the snarky comments that the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man had. But it is a modern story, so they've got cell phones, advanced technology, and it's a little play on different Spider-Man. And if you know me, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and I love everything about Spider-Man, and they keep it real to the typical Spider-Man. He doesn't have a lot of money. He's trying to balance life between school and Spider-Man, so on and so forth. Um, the characters are a little different, but and like who like Oscorp is and Dr. Octavius and all this other stuff are there. There is a special appearance of Daredevil, voiced by Charlie Cox still, which I think is great. There are some homage to the TV series, to the movies that have already been out, and the soundtrack's really good. The starting sound, the lyrics and everything to the start of the show
The
is the
opening title.
old,
Yeah.
yeah, is the old school Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, but
Spider-Man.
it's been hip hopped up with some rap in it, and it is amazingly good. Um,
Awesome.
I was so impressed with this. I was like, it takes a little while to get used to the art style because we don't see it anymore, but
Hmm.
we were used to it growing up, and
Some
it's
of us.
it's great. I am like, this is a lot of fun. This show, it's 30 minutes long. The characters are characters. They don't solely concentrate completely on Spider-Man. They, do all the other ones. Their special appearances and names on everything. There is so much fun stuff in the show and so many things. They've got to get a season two. This needs a season two because I'm on the last episode and
And
I
I
know there's
hadn't
spoilers.
heard anything about this until you mentioned it.
Nobody really has. It's just not
How
being
does
talked
it
about.
compare to Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends from 1981?
Well, what's funny is they actually kind of compare it to that in a way where um, it's not as violent. Like I've
Okay,
only seen one person get hit with like a weapon, and it was on episode 7.
damn.
Oh wow.
Okay,
And you actually see it, and you kind of go, "Whoa!" They just hit somebody with a real weapon, And this person,
okay,
there's actually blood on
all
episode
right,
7. So it's like you're not expecting it because you expect this, Saturday morning cartoon type feel from everything, and then it happens, and it was kind of like, damn, did they just? Yeah, they just did that, but it would have been normal in any other show.
right.
It's really, really good. I'm not finding a lot of faults in this. I'm not finding any issues. I am enjoying the shit out of this, and it needs a season two. I don't care
I'll have
what
to check
anybody
it out.
says. They're quick episodes, 30 minutes. Um, you don't have to go through, the death of, Uncle Ben. None of that stuff. It's all there. Everybody knows who Spider-Man is. Everybody
Right,
knows why Spider-Man's Spider-Man.
exactly.
We don't need that anymore. We need good storytelling of Spider-Man and type stuff. So
Yep.
right now, I'm going to get it in a half because it takes a little to get too used to. So like the first few episodes, you're like, am I really? Yeah, I'm enjoying this, but this feels weird and different because it is different and it needs to be different because you can't do the same shit over and over.
Yep.
So I'm giving it a half a space RP for now. Once I watch the final episode, I'll do a full review.
Very cool.
All right. I'm gonna talk about Borderlands 3, which was
Mm,
this was my first time playing the game. I have played Borderlands 1 and 2 in parts. Personally, I I really am bad at FPS. So like I have to have somebody there to carry me. Like I am so bad at FPS. It's not even funny. I have played through the Tales from the Borderlands games, so I know a lot of the like lore and stuff around the games. However, in the third installment, you get introduced to a couple of NPCs known as Pain and Terror, voiced by none other than Penn and Teller, which made me so happy. Like so happy. I was just like, I don't care if I die, just keep talking. Like it was a lot of fun. I was playing with 3 other people, and like you could decorate your rooms and stuff on like the ship, and like 3 is so much different than 1 and 2, and it makes me excited to go through and play Tiny Tina's Wonderlands after this, because I've only played Attack on Dragon Keep, which is the DLC from Borderlands 2, but I am very much enjoying it. I am actively avoiding any spoilers for Borderlands 4, but this is really the first time that I played like a Borderlands game with more than one other person ever.
Okay.
So, I it for an FPS, I'm gonna give it a 1 because it is my favorite FPS that I have ever played. However, it's still an FPS, so therefore it gets 1 space herpy for that.
Borderlands series as a whole is great. It's well
Yeah,
written,
no,
and it's an
it's
amazing, amazing game.
Except for the
yeah.
movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
we
movie
don't even we're not talking about the movie. We're not talking about the
the
movie.
movie
The movie
gets
doesn't exist in my brain.
4.5, but when the movie was loyal to Borderlands 1. Got to give it that. It just sucked regardless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
I did see Borderlands the movie, and I agree with GM Eric. It's bad. It's so bad. I think I
it's
gave
loyal
it a 4
but
to
so
5.
bad.
Yeah.
My friends that are diehard fans of the Borderlands series hated the movie. They literally took notebooks with them to write everything, to keep track of everything they did wrong.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I really like I love the style of the animation
Yep.
and the graphics. I like the story. The characters are absolutely phenomenal.
Within the video
Like,
games, yes.
yes, within the
Yeah.
video games.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the movie. I have not seen the
And it's
movie.
got
I
a
will
ton
not
of
watch the movie.
it's got a ton of replayability too. It really does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The entire series does because you got the different heroes, etc. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Eric. What
Well,
you got for us?
I am going to go a little bit off the rails here and do one that I don't think you guys have ever heard of, called
Try it.
The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. Have you ever heard of this one? No?
Yep.
You have?
I've heard
Okay.
of this. I don't know much
All
about
right. If you don't know much about it, The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, I would classify, before we even get into this is a 0.25 space herpes movie, okay? This is a movie that is nearly perfect in how horrible it is. It is a B
Bring it on.
movie. It is a B movie that knows it's a B movie.
Like
It's
Velocipaster?
worse. The trivia of this is they had a guy who was supposed to play a park ranger, and when he showed up on set, he was acting too well, and they had to inform him that they only hired him because he had a park ranger outfit. The director's wife is the main villain slash alien. When they do the fight scenes, you can actively see the wires because they painted them white on purpose so you could. Um, it is exceedingly bad, and it is a black and white film from like 2001. Like they
Where
made a
can
black
we
and
find this? Like what streaming service is it
it's
on?
on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. You can find it. But it is an amazingly bad film on purpose that is extremely quotable. Like there are just so many horrible scenes in here that once you have watched this film, you'll be like, I have been readied for all other cinema. because nothing can ever compare to how horrible this film is because they made it as bad as possible on purpose. And they embrace the fact, and they're very self aware that we are making a bad movie because we want to. And it's not like a U-Bowl film that is bad in spite of the fact he wanted to make a good film.
I've heard
Like
that
every
joke forever.
U-Bowl, right? U-Bowl is just bad as a director. Come fight me, U-Bowl. I know he boxes, fine, whatever. But Lost Skeleton of Cadaver is a perfect film because they know they're making a bad movie and they intentionally embrace it and make it as bad as possible. And so, if you've not seen The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, you must see this film. It is excellent. Don't watch Lost Skeleton of Cadavra 2, it sucks. But the first one is amazing. They made a second one, yeah. But yeah, check that one out. It's 0.25 space herpes. It is not a dramatic masterpiece. It is not. But if you want a comedic gem that is actively trying to be a comedic gem by being bad, it is excellent.
Next one I want to
Gotcha.
talk about is I am still listening to Onyx Storm. It is the third book in the
Okay.
Sorry.
fourth wing.
I'm so sorry, sir.
And don't get me wrong. I understand that I am not the demographic for this book at all,
I
Right.
am, and it's still bad.
and it's still bad. I'm bored as fuck. I am literally bored as hell with this, and I'm only going through this because I know I tortured myself for you, the viewers and listeners, because I love you. This book is shit hit tea. I and the thing is there's like supposed to be some
There's a
big
reason I
cliffhanger.
returned it at 42%. Like, I only listened to 40% of that audiobook before I
Oh,
returned it to the library because I was just like, this is painful.
And the thing is, there's supposed to be like this big cliffhanger at the end, and I've like maybe I should just skip. I'm like, no, I have to suffer for my viewers. The characters are boring as shit right now. Nothing has happened in this book. Not a single good plot has been moved. Not a single thing. I mean, the book one was not bad.
David.
The book one was not bad. It
No,
wasn't
the
my
first book was
demographic.
fine. There was also way more dragons.
Yeah, but this book just doesn't go anywhere. I've only got I got like 10 hours left or something like that, and I'm glad I'm doing it on my drive. That way I'm forced to listen to it. Um,
Cookie asked if it's 5 space dragons.
no, space dragons are awesome, but this book is horrible. I mean, there's been two sex scenes, and you know me, I'm a boots on the ground type person. I don't want to listen to it. For those people that do, fine, no problem. And I just kind of do a 30-second skip until it's over, type thing. Um, but I'm just like, nothing's happened in this. I'm over halfway through, and nothing has happened. Literally. I'm expecting some good plot, some good twist, something happened, something cool. Nothing. Holy crap. I can't believe how popular this has gotten because it's already been, up for movie and TV rights and so on and so forth. And I'm just like, oh. And
Like
it
like I
goes back.
asked last time, it's like Stephanie Meyer just took over the book.
Well, what's interesting about this whole thing is, it goes back to the whole if this was real life and I acted like this character, the male character that she's in love with, it would be considered abuse. If the girl acted like she was in real life, she would have been committed. This is and I get it's fantasy, you're living off of the story type thing, but really nothing has happened. Literally nothing has happened that has been meaningful or worth it. I I'm gonna finish it. I will. And I also got, a couple other movies, Craven, you name it. I've got it there. I will suffer for you. But right now this thing's hitting like 4.5, 5 space herpes. And I
I
just
can't wait for you to finish it and complain even more.
oh yeah, because I there's supposed to be this big cliffhanger ending that is shocking the world. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So, Nerd, you got anything else?
Yes, we'll review a movie that I have seen many a times, but I will never not watch it, is Role Models. Um, it is a favorite in our house.
It's
It
so
is
dumb. It's fun.
it is quoted so much. The cast of this movie. I mean, first you get Paul Rudd playing like super sarcastic guy, like he's not being the giant goofball. He is sardonic and angry, and but him plus Jane Lynch, you really can't go wrong. And then you add LARP into it. I mean, it's just so good. Like that and Knights of Badassdom are two of my like I love LARP movies. Like movies that like they're just so fun. But Role Models, it still holds up. Uh Despite it being, oh god, how old is that movie now? Hold on. That came out in 2008, so it's 17 years old now. Paul Rudd hasn't aged a day.
No.
Like the man is yeah, the man's a time wizard. Um, but yeah, I give it zero space herpes. It is still to this day one of my favorite comedies.
It's a fun show.
Oh man,
Oh,
I've
posture
been
check.
I've been going back and watching some old classic movies and TV shows because I like classic stuff as well. And the new stuff you can get through pretty fast.
Hmm.
I went back and someone recommended that I watch Lex. And I went, and if you don't know what Lex is a hypersexualized sci-fi series from long, long ago, and it is not good. Um, there's some good elements to it, but it's just hard to watch. And so for that reason, because it's just this setup of we're going to make the most badass weapon in two universes. That's actually the line. We are the most lethal thing in two universes. Um, the whole setup is for this is a planet destroying weapon, etc. And it just doesn't ever hook. And it's just constant, cheap jokes and not real development, just abstract statements of history where we don't actually ever explore the character development. Just bad. And it's not a series that you should ever watch unless you like sci-fi and want to just check mark it off your list, which is what I'm doing. So I'm not a fan of Lex whatsoever. So I'm going to give it a full 4.5 on that one. Like, it's this is like the polar opposite of Cadavra. This is a series that apparently did well when it was on the air, but I do not understand how this thing made it more than a single episode because it's just bad, and I'm just check marking it off my I have watched this list.
Is it
So
LEXX?
Yes.
LEXX. Yep,
Yeah, it was made from 96 to 2002. Whew.
right. 6 seasons. And it is not worth a single episode so far.
61
So,
Ouch.
episodes.
right. Um, I don't know who was sleeping with the producer or what, but this thing should not have been made. It is bad
Oh,
for the
and
sake of being bad. Like, seriously, do not watch this show. It's not worth your time. I am only check marking it because I want the nerd cred from it. This is an achievement whore going, hey, I want this. So that's it.
all right, Godzo, you got anything else for us?
Um, I have been reading a couple of other things to go through. I have been working on some RPGs, running through some stuff because you know me, I collect RPGs, whether they're good,
What?
bad, or whatever. That's kind of the one of my things, and going through some new ones and trying to find new stuff. I've been going through some other games, so nothing really to report there. I am watching some of the TV series that I've got, working on the new Harley series, and I think it's about time that they probably end this because it's the same old jokes over and over.
The
Um,
animated one?
yeah, the animated.
Yeah, yeah.
First two seasons great. This one, I think it's just running its course. Um, there was some good on this last episode. Still watching School Spirits. Still pretty decent. Not a bad TV show. Just not great. Um, Caught up on some other things, but for the most part, been playing Final Fantasy 14 with Mizzy and I, and we've been going through that. I pulled out my Paladin again, and I am a big sucker for holy warriors and so on and so forth and campaigns. Whenever I play get to play in D&D, it's one of two things, and it's usually bard or paladins, type thing.
So why did you go warlock in my campaign?
Cause do something different. Um,
I'm
and
not
so
arguing. I'm just
yeah. I'm always a sucker for paladins, especially because that was like one of my first D&D character ever made. So it was just, but I've been playing in Final Fantasy 14. I'm actually in a pretty solid free company, aka Guild, and they've been doing a lot of cool things. Like they actually brought in a DJ this last Saturday, and it was a DJ on Twitch that was in our guild hall, and he was streaming on Twitch, DJing for us inside the guild hall, and
that's
with their
awesome.
stuff,
Very
which was
cool.
really nice. I thought it was very fun. Um, this guild actually does stuff. They want people to, have a good time, and they talk with people, and it was actually pretty good. If you're playing Final Fantasy 14, if you can get into the Goblin server, come over and join us. We'll have you over there. We'll have some games, play.
Goblins.
So not a review, just going through some stuff. I have Monday off, and I will probably be doing that. So, oh, actually, and cleaning this room up because it is a fucking mess. Um, Type thing. So,
That happens.
nerd, what you got?
That's it.
Eric, you got anything else?
Let's see. Um, I've been doing, like I was talking beforehand, I've been working through the Homeworld remastered series, which I love.
Yep.
Um, Other than that, the voice acting in Homeworld as a video game series is phenomenal. If you guys don't go and play the game, go watch just the cinematics from the Homeworld remaster. The voice acting in that series is great. The RTS I enjoy, but the storyline can be independent of that. So go watch the cinematics from the Homeworld remaster. The voice actors in that did an amazing job, and you learn a lot from a GM perspective on how to voice act serious evil characters through that kind of voice acting. So listen to that sort of thing. It's excellent. The villain in that is great, especially the second one.
Cool. All right, guys, that is our episode for the night. We appreciate everybody listening, everybody watching. Make sure you check out all the socials, not only ours, but GM Eric's, and make sure you give a little love to each other. As usual, if you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. If you can do something, do something. If you can't, find some at will, because we're going to have to look after each other more than anything else right now. For More Than Dice, I'm Gonzo.
And I'm nerd.
I'm GM Eric.
Oh, wait, we've got one last thing.
Yes.
How are you making your millions doing GMing?
Well, you
Thanks for listening to More Than Dice, making the world a better, nerdier place, one dumb joke at a time. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. For more nerdy action or to connect with your hosts, check them out on Facebook.com/morethandice and Twitch.tv/more_than_dice. Until next time, stay nerdy, stay proud, and we'll see you soon on the More Than Dice podcast.